Hello, health conscious meal lovers. Today we're going to make creamy vegan wild rice soup from Midwest Foodie, where Kylie Lotto, I don't know if I'm saying her last name correctly, blogs, and that is her blog, and this is her recipe. And today I'm going to try it out with you guys so that you don't have to unless you decide you want to. Hello, welcome to Health Conscious Meals, a channel where we try other people's recipes so you don't have to. In other words, you get to see if we like the recipe, if the recipe really is legit according to the instructions, and then you can decide if you want to make it yourself. Here are the ingredients that you're going to need to make this soup. Obviously, you're going to need mushrooms, and then coconut milk, olive oil, vegetable broth, diced onions, carrots and celery, 1 cup each, a multitude of spices that I will include below, wild rice, cornstarch, and balsamic vinegar. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm gonna make this in a Dutch oven, and as with most soup recipes, you're gonna start with 2 tablespoons of olive oil, then we're gonna add the onions, celery, and carrots, along with a couple of pinches of salt and pepper is what it says. We're gonna cook for 8 minutes. We'll add the onions. Wish those were sizzling a little bit more. I should have maybe waited for the oil to be a little warmer. And then the carrots and celery, along with a pinch of pepper and a pinch of salt. We're already about halfway through, and I just love the smell of celery, carrots and onions and olive oil. Just reminds you of a good hearty soup. Once those have cooked or finished cooking for 8 minutes, you're gonna add the mushrooms and all of the spices, and then that is gonna cook for 5 minutes after you've got it all stirred up. That's what it looks like all stirred up, and it smells phenomenal. If you like the smell of sage and thyme, it smells excellent. And you want to continue to stir it, throughout the 5 minutes, stirring occasionally. Then Kylie says to add the balsamic vinegar, boom, 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 and a splash of the vegetable broth, to get all of the yummy glazed bits like this stuff down to the bottom. I might have to add a couple more splashes to get that down, or scrape it off the bottom or something. I'm a really experienced cook. Not. Okay. I think that's good, and then those look like they're loose from the bottom. Okay, then you're gonna add the coconut milk and the rest of the vegetable broth. Once the vegetable broth and the coconut oil is added, you can add the rice. I still need to break up some of that the coconut milk, because that's not completely broken up. And as you can see, maybe you should use a bigger pot, because I actually wasn't able to get all 64 ounces of the vegetable broth in the pot, so hopefully I'll just have a more flavorful soup. Then says to add the 3 tablespoons of cornstarch to cold water and let it dissolve in the water. I used a fork to kind of break up the pieces, and now it seems like it's ready to go. And she says to add that to this. Now I'm waiting for it to simmer, and then once it's brought to a simmer, then you're going to, or bring to a boil, and then once it's simmering, then we're going to cover for 30 minutes. I don't know if that's gonna work because it's so high in this pot, so I'll just have to figure that out. Okay, so you're supposed to bring it to a simmer over medium heat, then reduce it to low heat and cover for 30 to 35 minutes. But I mentioned that you're supposed to bring it to a boil. That was incorrect. Only to simmer, cover for 35. I check it every 10 minutes of that 35 minutes to make sure that you don't have any like rice or anything stuck on the bottom that needs to be loosened and won't, fully cook stuck on the bottom. Here it is about 10 minutes into that 35 minutes, and it's smelling very mushroomy. Yum. It's been simmering under a covered lid for 30-35 minutes, and now it's going to simmer uncovered for 10 to 15 minutes until the rice is thoroughly cooked. I barely can see any rice. There's some rice. I actually only had a cup of rice. I thought I had a cup and a half, and that's what it calls for. But I only had a cup, so that might be why. But I also didn't want it to be rice heavy, so that's why I didn't really care about that. And we're gonna let this simmer until it is thoroughly cooked through. And it will simmer until the soup has thickened. And you can tell right now that it's pretty soup, like thin, not so creamy yet. So hopefully it's gonna thicken up quite a bit with the lid off. Now the 10-15 minutes of it simmering without a lid has really cooked the rice, which is good. So it wasn't that I didn't have enough rice. I think that the rice wasn't cooked yet, maybe. And it is a little bit creamier, but not much. So that's all right. It smells awesome. My whole house smells awesome because of it. Now I'm gonna turn off the heat and just kind of let it cool down before I eat it. And I will show you what it looks like plated. It's probably been sitting here for 15-20 minutes. So you can tell that it really has thickened up a lot more, and the rice is thoroughly cooked now. Kylie of Midwest Foodie tops it off or finishes it up with some parsley, but I didn't want to buy a whole thing of parsley just to put some on top, and I never really think there's much flavor to it anyway. So I'm gonna eat it just like this. I'm about halfway through, and it's really good. So I like all the different textures, the mushrooms, the rice, the carrots, the celery, but it really lacked salt and pepper. So be sure, and I didn't taste it all the way through or anything like that. So just be sure if you make this that you add salt and pepper to it, like while you're stirring it 1,000 times or whatever, so that if you serve it to your family, it's ready to go. Or if you prefer, you could always just put salt and pepper on the table and everyone could add their own. But it's really, really good. I'm glad I made it, and I'll have plenty to have for leftovers the next couple days. So I bet it will taste even better after it's set up in the refrigerator with all the spices overnight. 2 bowls in, and that was some good soup, as long as you have enough salt and pepper added. So what's up next? Is there a recipe that you found online that you would really like to try? If so, please leave a link below in the comments, and I'll do my best to make it. So you don't have to unless you see that I like it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.